Rarely in isolation does information influence or persuade us. So the idea that we just give information to people and expect them to make rational, logical decisions, that often isn't the case. What the case is that it's information that's presented in a particular psychological context, or which aligns to one of the fundamental triggers of human decision making. It's that information that causes us most likely to be influenced and persuaded.
There is a book hidden in plain sight with the power to change everything. Published in 1895, it contains no spells, no ancient rituals, only a precise and unsettling logic. It is a manual on control, revealing how thoughts can be shaped, behaviors guided, and entire societies steered as effortlessly as a ship on calm waters. Its knowledge is both a weapon and a defense, arming those who read it with the tools of influence and the wisdom to resist them. The hidden knowledge. Few who stumble upon its pages truly understand the gravity of what they hold. Yet those who do, leaders, visionaries, and even tyrants, know its lessons can turn the tide of nations. If you've ever wondered how certain figures seem to sway entire populations, or why ideas spread like wildfire, the answers may lie within this text. But beware, for knowledge like this is double-edged. It can illuminate the dark corners of manipulation, or draw you into wielding its dangerous allure. To understand why this book is so dangerous, we must first grasp what it teaches about human nature. The author, though unknown to most, was a philosopher of the mind, dissecting human behavior with surgical precision. He understood that humans are driven by desires, fears, and the invisible strings of social expectations. Controlling people isn't about brute force, but about speaking directly to their subconscious. Control is invisible whispers, not the roar of visible commands. This perspective aligns with the ideas of Michel Foucault, particularly his theories on power and control. Foucault argued that power is most effective when it is subtle, shaping behavior and beliefs without overt coercion. In Discipline and Punish, he explores how institutions exert control not through direct oppression, but through structures that make individuals regulate themselves, what he calls disciplinary power. His concept of biopower also examines how power infiltrates everyday life, influencing people at a subconscious level rather than through overt force. In many ways, this teaching mirrors the parable of the wind and the sun. The wind, confident in its strength, tries to force a traveler to remove his cloak, but only makes him clutch it tighter. The sun, with its quiet warmth, compels the traveler to shed it willingly. The book argues that influence follows the same principle. Subtlety, not force, wins hearts and minds. One of its most controversial lessons is the idea of the crowd. Individuals behave differently when they become part of a group. Rational thought dissolves, replaced by instinct and emotion. A crowd can be swayed by the simplest triggers, a word, a symbol, a song. It is this insight that has made the book a blueprint for both revolutionaries and manipulators. To the untrained eye, this might sound like common knowledge. After all, history is littered with examples of leaders who moved the masses through powerful speeches or compelling imagery. But what the book reveals is the mechanics behind it, the psychological levers and pulleys that make collective minds bend and yield. This is why it is considered so dangerous. The techniques it describes are not guesses or theories. They are methods refined through observation and practice. Imagine for a moment what it means to truly understand the workings of influence. Picture a man who knows precisely how to phrase a statement so it feels like an undeniable truth. Imagine someone who can tap into your deepest desires without you even realizing it. Such mastery could be used for good, to inspire and uplift, or for harm, to manipulate and exploit. This is the ethical precipice on which the book balances. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once warned about the power of despair. He described it as a sickness that silently consumes the soul, leading people to search for meaning in the wrong places. The book in its own way echoes this warning. It reveals that people are most vulnerable to influence when they are lost, uncertain, or afraid. In these moments, they crave guidance, even if it comes from someone with dark intentions. The author wrote, "It is not the strong who seek leaders, but the weary, the wandering, the unsure." The implications of this are staggering. If you understand what drives a person's despair, you can control their decisions. Politicians, advertisers, and even religious leaders have used this principle to rally followers or sell ideas. The book's pages are a mirror, reflecting the manipulations we encounter daily, yet fail to recognize. The knowledge within the book doesn't just reveal the tactics others may use against you, it forces you to confront your own vulnerabilities. Are you truly free in your decisions, or have you been subtly influenced without realizing it? This question is at the heart of why the book remains so contentious. It strips away the illusion of autonomy and exposes the strings that bind us. Despite the potential for harm, the book also offers a way out. By understanding how influence works, you can learn to spot manipulation before it takes hold. You become like Odysseus, tying yourself to the mast to resist the siren's call. The knowledge is both a weapon and a defense, empowering you to navigate a world where influence is currency. The hidden law of influence. There is an unwritten law that governs power, shaping the rise and fall of leaders, movements, and entire civilizations. It is not taught in schools, not openly discussed, and yet it determines who succeeds, who follows, and who fades into obscurity. This is the hidden law of influence, and those who understand it hold a power greater than wealth or force. Influence is not about control, it is about direction. It is the art of making people believe they are acting on their own free will, while subtly guiding them toward a desired outcome. The greatest influencers in history did not command, they inspired. They did not force, they led others to willingly follow. This law operates on a principle both simple and terrifying. Perception is reality. People do not follow the truth, they follow what they believe to be true. If something is repeated enough, reinforced by authority, wrapped in emotion, and validated by the crowd, it becomes unquestionable. It does not matter if it is real or an illusion. What matters is that it feels real. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most influential philosophers of modern times, introduced the idea of perspectivism, which challenges the notion that truth is absolute, fixed, and the same for everyone. Instead, he argued that truth is shaped by interpretation, power, and belief systems, meaning what we consider to be true depends on how we see the world, who has the power to influence beliefs, and what ideas we have been taught to accept. Most people grow up believing that truth is something objective, something that exists outside of human influence, like a scientific fact. But Nietzsche argued that what we call truth is often just a perspective that has been accepted as truth because it has been repeated, reinforced, and spread by those in power. For example, in different periods of history, people have believed very different things about morality, religion, and even science. What was true for one civilization was false for another. Nietzsche believed this showed that truth is not a fixed universal reality, but something shaped by human perception and cultural context. Nietzsche argued that people do not see the world as it truly is. They interpret it based on their own experiences, emotions, and biases. Every person and society views reality through a specific lens shaped by upbringing, culture, language, and personal desires. For example, take the idea of good and evil. In one culture, bravery and aggression might be seen as virtues, while in another, humility and peace might be more valued. These are not absolute truths, but interpretations of how the world should be. Nietzsche believed that truth is always tied to perspective. There is no neutral, objective way to see reality. The will to truth. Truth is shaped by power. Those in control, whether governments, religious institutions, or intellectual elites, decide what is accepted as truth. Over time, their version of truth becomes dominant, not because it is necessarily correct, but because it is repeated, reinforced, and imposed on society. For example, in medieval Europe, the church controlled knowledge. It declared that the Earth was the center of the universe, and anyone who questioned this could be punished or even killed. The idea remained true for centuries, not because it was factually correct, but because the Church had the power to enforce it. Today, political and media institutions shape public opinion. Depending on where someone gets their news, they may have very different understandings of reality. This shows how power influences what people believe to be true. Nietzsche's point is that truth is often a product of who has the ability to spread their version of reality, not necessarily of what is objectively real. Nietzsche introduced the idea of the will to power, which is the fundamental drive of all living beings to grow, expand, and assert themselves. He argued that people and societies do not seek truth for its own sake. Instead, they seek truths that help them gain power, survive, and thrive. For example, religions create moral systems that benefit their followers and keep them united. Governments promote certain values to maintain order and control. Individuals accept beliefs that justify their desires and actions. Rather than being neutral seekers of truth, Nietzsche believed that people choose truths that serve their interests. This means that many of the truths we hold are not about discovering reality, but about reinforcing what makes us feel powerful, safe, or successful. Nietzsche's perspectivism is more relevant today than ever. With the rise of social media, political divisions, and competing worldviews, people live in different realities based on what they consume and believe. Two individuals can look at the same event and interpret it in completely different ways because of their perspectives. His philosophy challenges us to question, are the truths we believe truly objective, or have they been shaped by our culture and biases? Who benefits from the truths we are taught to accept? Are we seeking truth, or just looking for beliefs that support our own desires and power? Truth is never neutral. It is always shaped by perspective, power, and human needs. Instead of blindly accepting what is called truth, he encouraged critical thinking, questioning authority, and embracing the complexity of reality. There are three pillars of influence. First is authority, the illusion of knowledge. People trust those they perceive as knowing more than them. Titles, uniforms, confidence, and certainty create the illusion of expertise. The hidden law teaches that perception is more powerful than actual knowledge. A person who speaks with absolute conviction will be believed over someone who hesitates, even if the latter holds the truth. History is shaped by those who mastered this. Religious figures, politicians, and media personalities do not always provide facts. They provide certainty, and certainty is far more attractive than truth, which is often complex and uncomfortable. The second pillar of influence is emotion, the shortcut to the mind. Logic convinces, but emotion moves. People do not follow reason, they follow feeling. The most influential figures in history understood this. They did not argue, they evoked. They made people feel pride, fear, anger, hope. Emotion bypasses the rational mind, creating instant reactions that shape decisions before logic has a chance to intervene. A simple phrase, a carefully chosen image, a repeated symbol, these can embed themselves into the psyche and drive action without resistance. Influence is not about making people think, it is about making them feel something so strongly that they act on instinct. The third influence is the crowd, the power of the many. Nothing shapes belief more than the perception that others already believe it. People follow the crowd because isolation is terrifying. The hidden law states that if an idea is presented as already accepted, it becomes self-sustaining. This is why mass movements are so powerful, why trends explode overnight, why opinions shift seemingly out of nowhere. It is not because people suddenly see the truth, it is because they see others believing and they conform. The desire to belong is stronger than the desire to be right. Once you understand this law, the world looks different. You begin to see how leaders manufacture belief, how brands create loyalty, how ideologies spread like wildfire. You see how wars are justified, how narratives are constructed, and how history is rewritten to serve those who tell it. And then comes the most unsettling realization of all. You have been influenced your entire life. Every opinion, every preference, every value you hold, how many of them are truly yours? How many were placed in your mind without your awareness? The truth is, there is a hidden hand controlling your life. The hidden hand. There is a force at work in the world, unseen yet ever present. It does not rule through violence or tyranny, nor does it demand obedience outright. Instead, it whispers, guiding thoughts, shaping beliefs, and directing actions without ever revealing its hand. Most people go through life unaware of this force. They wake up, go to work, engage in debates, follow trends, and make choices, never realizing that much of what they do has already been decided for them. They believe they are thinking freely, but their thoughts have been placed there carefully, methodically over time. A common argument in influence theory suggests that true control is most effective when individuals believe they are acting of their own volition. Consider a flock of sheep. A fence is an obvious sign of captivity. The animals will resist and search for ways to escape. But if you remove the fence and replace it with an illusion, if you train the sheep to believe they must never cross a certain point, that beyond it lies danger or death, they will remain within the boundaries without ever needing to be caged. That is true control, not physical restraint, but mental confinement. This force understands that people do not respond well to coercion, but they accept control when it feels like a choice. So, the choices are created for them. Left or right, conservative or liberal, one brand or another, one ideology against its opposite. Always two sides, always the illusion of opposition. But step back far enough and it becomes clear. Both sides lead to the same place. It works because people crave structure. They want to belong, to have purpose, to know what is right and what is wrong. They want certainty, and so they accept the narratives given to them. The moment a belief is repeated often enough, it ceases to be questioned. It becomes a reality. And those who control these beliefs, they do not act openly. They do not seek fame or recognition. Power is most effective when it is invisible. A single idea planted in the right mind can spread like wildfire. A single image, a symbol, a carefully chosen phrase, these can shift the course of nations, not through laws or force, but through the shaping of perception itself. Have you ever wondered why some stories are told over and over while others disappear? Why do certain ideas gain traction while others are erased? Why does history repeat itself, yet no one seems to notice? Because this force ensures that only the right stories remain, only the right ideas take hold. Only the right kind of opposition exists, the kind that ultimately changes nothing. But what happens when someone sees the pattern? When they step outside the illusion and begin to question? At first, nothing changes. The world continues as it always has. But over time, they begin to notice the details, the subtle cues, the repetition, the predictable nature of events. They begin to see the hidden hand at work. And then the most dangerous thought of all enters their mind. What if everything I have ever believed was given to me? That is the moment when true awareness begins. The moment when the walls, once invisible, start to take shape. The moment when the mind, after a lifetime of guidance, starts to think for itself. This force does not fear opposition, it thrives on it. What it fears is awareness. Because the moment people start to see, the illusion begins to crack. Those who master influence do not need force or coercion. They do not need to argue or prove their point. They only need to shape what people believe is true, and the rest happens naturally. The hidden law is powerful, but it is not unbreakable. The moment you see how influence works, you become resistant to it. The spell loses its grip. You start asking questions, tracing ideas back to their origins, and recognizing when you are being manipulated. But this is not an easy path. Most people do not want to see the strings pulling their thoughts. They would rather believe they are in control, even if they are not. The truth is uncomfortable, and so many choose to remain asleep. But for those who seek true freedom, the hidden law of influence is the key. It is both a weapon and a shield. A weapon because understanding it allows you to wield power. A shield, because once you recognize it, you cannot be controlled in the same way again. But you may wonder, what's the most powerful technique of persuasion? The words that shape reality. The most dangerous form of influence is the one that goes unnoticed. A single sentence can change an entire belief system. There is a reason words have always been feared by those in power. Words have started revolutions and ended empires. They have sparked faith and incited war. They have turned ordinary men into legends and buried the names of kings in the dust of history. The book from 1895 reveals the terrifying truth about words. They do not simply describe reality, they create it. This idea is not new. Ancient traditions have long understood the power of language. In the book of Genesis, the Bible describes how the universe was formed, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This means that creation itself began with a spoken command. Light did not exist until it was declared into being. This idea suggests that words are more than just communication. They have the power to bring things into existence. Similarly, in Hindu philosophy, the sacred sound Om is believed to be the original vibration that created the universe. It is not just a sound, but the very foundation of reality. The idea is that everything, matter, energy, and life comes from this one sound, showing that speech and vibration are deeply connected to creation. Both traditions suggest a powerful truth. Words are not passive. They shape the world around us. Even outside of religious texts, we see the same pattern in human life. Words do not just describe things, they influence actions, shape emotions, and define beliefs. A small idea, when spoken, can spread like wildfire. Revolutions and social changes often begin with a single statement, a call to action, or a rumor that grows into something larger. When something is said often enough, people start to believe it even if it is false. Propaganda works this way. Governments, media, or leaders can repeat certain messages until they become truth in people's minds. History has seen many examples of this, where repeated misinformation leads people to accept harmful ideas. A single phrase can change a person's life. Encouraging words can give someone the confidence to chase their dreams, while a hurtful insult can damage self-esteem for years. A well-timed piece of advice can alter the course of a person's future. Think about moments in your own life when something someone said deeply affected you. Maybe a teacher's encouragement made you believe in yourself, or a harsh criticism made you doubt your abilities. Words have power, not just over societies, but over individuals as well. The book exposes the blueprint behind this power. Influence is not about what you say, it is about how you say it. The arrangement of words, the rhythm of speech, the timing of silence. It explains that persuasion does not work by convincing the rational mind, but by bypassing it entirely, planting ideas directly into the subconscious, where they grow unnoticed until they are mistaken for one's own thoughts. The most powerful speeches in history were not logical arguments, they were emotional experiences. Martin Luther King Jr. did not say, "I have a strategic 5-point plan for policy reform." He said, "I have a dream." His words painted a picture so vivid that those who heard them could not help but see it too. This is the secret revealed in the book. The human mind does not think in words, it thinks in images, and the one who controls the image controls the belief. This is why propaganda works. That's why we remember slogans so easily. This is why entire populations can be made to embrace an idea, even if it defies reason. The book teaches that if you can craft the right message, short, emotional, and easy to repeat, you can make people believe anything. But here is where the knowledge turns dark. If words shape reality, then those who control words control perception itself. This is why regimes burn books. This is why rulers rewrite history. This is why certain ideas are banned while others are amplified. This work explains that the battle for power is not fought with weapons, it is fought with narratives. Change the story and you change the world. The most effective way to manipulate a society is not to suppress the truth, but to drown it in noise. It fills the air with so many conflicting messages that people no longer know what to believe. Confusion leads to exhaustion, and an exhausted mind does not question. It obeys. This technique has been used throughout history. The fall of Rome was preceded by a flood of misinformation. The rise of totalitarian states has always been accompanied by the rewriting of facts. Even now, in the modern age, information is weaponized. The book predicted this long before the era of mass media. It warned that when people are overwhelmed with narratives, they will cling to the one that offers them the most comfort, even if it is a lie. But there is a way to defend against this. The book does not just teach manipulation, it teaches how to break free from it. The key to resisting influence is not to fight it directly, but to step outside of it, to see the patterns, to recognize the structure of persuasion before it takes hold. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly realized you were being led? A moment where a speech, an advertisement, or a conversation felt too perfect, too compelling, as if designed to make you feel a certain way. That feeling is awareness, and awareness is the one thing manipulation cannot survive. True freedom comes not from rejecting all influence, but from understanding it, from recognizing the techniques before they can take root, from questioning not just what is being said, but how it is being said. There is a moment, brief, almost imperceptible, when a decision is made. You think you are choosing freely, that your thoughts are your own. But what if they are not? The illusion of choice. Most of what we believe to be choices are not choices at all. They are carefully crafted illusions. Imagine walking into a store and standing in front of two nearly identical products. You pick one without much thought. Why? Did you truly decide? Or was your decision made long before you ever reached for the item, shaped by advertisements, by color schemes, by subtle cues designed to guide your hand? Real influence is not about forcing someone's will. It is about making them believe they have chosen freely, even when every step of their path has been laid out for them. This is the principle that has shaped politics, business, and religion for centuries. The illusion of choice is the most powerful tool of control because it removes resistance. A person who feels forced will push back. A person who believes they are acting on their own will fight for their decision, even if it was never truly theirs. History is filled with examples of this tactic in action. Consider the parable of the prodigal son. The younger son demands his inheritance, leaves his father's house, and squanders everything. Broken and ashamed, he returns home, believing he is making a choice to seek forgiveness. But was this truly his decision, or was his path inevitable from the moment he left? His freedom was an illusion. His choices led him exactly where he was meant to go. The society operates in much the same way. People are given choices, but the options are predetermined. They are told they have freedom, yet every road leads to the same destination. The illusion is so complete that few ever question it. This is why the book is so feared. It reveals that governments do not control through force alone, but through the careful shaping of perception. It exposes how businesses make people desire what they never needed. It shows how ideologies spread, not by argument, but by controlling the framework within which arguments take place. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Have you ever wondered why certain debates never seem to end? Why the same issues rise again and again, generation after generation, without resolution? The book explains that this is by design. A society distracted by endless conflict will never turn its attention to the real mechanisms of power. If people are given two opposing sides to fight over, they will never notice the hand that placed them there in the first place. This technique is ancient. The Romans called it divide et impera, divide and rule. Keep people focused on their differences so they never unite against those who truly hold power. This method is used everywhere, in politics, in business, even in religion. It is not about finding the truth, it is about maintaining control. But the book does not just expose the problem, it offers a way out. The first step is awareness. The moment you begin questioning the choices presented to you, the illusion starts to weaken. The second step is distance. The book teaches that true freedom comes from stepping outside the system, not rejecting it entirely, but observing it from a place of clarity. Have you ever felt a sudden shift, as if stepping back from a conversation and realizing it was never truly yours? That sensation, the moment you recognize the structure of influence at play, is the beginning of liberation. But this knowledge comes with a warning. The moment you see the illusion, you become dangerous. Those who recognize the system for what it is are often silenced, dismissed, or labeled as threats. Power does not fear resistance, it fears awareness, the architecture of belief. There is something more powerful than money, more enduring than laws, more absolute than force. It is belief. The greatest empires were not built on weapons alone. They were built on ideas so deeply embedded in the human mind that they became unquestionable. A man will fight for his country. A woman will die for her faith. A people will defend their culture, their traditions, their very identity, not because they have been forced to, but because they believe in them. The book explains that belief is the final and most unbreakable chain, and those who understand how to shape it control the world. This is the secret that rulers, philosophers, and spiritual leaders have known for centuries. The mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is deeply believed to be real. If a child grows up afraid of the dark, they might feel uneasy in an empty room, convinced that something lurks within it. A soldier conditioned to see the enemy as less than human will kill without hesitation. A society told what is good and what is evil will follow that script without question. The book unveils the methods used to forge belief. Symbols, repetition, ritual. These are the tools that transform mere ideas into absolute truths. Think of the power of symbols. A cross, a flag, a raised fist. These are not just shapes. They are charged with meaning, capable of evoking loyalty, fear, or devotion in an instant. The book warns that once a symbol is accepted, it no longer requires explanation. It bypasses logic entirely and becomes something deeper, something felt rather than understood. Repetition is another weapon. Say something once and it is just a statement. Say it 1,000 times and it becomes reality. This is why propaganda works, why mantras endure. Why can entire populations be made to believe the impossible? The book teaches that the human mind is not designed to question what is repeated often enough. It is designed to absorb. And then there is ritual. The most powerful belief systems do not rely on words alone. They embed themselves in action. The act of kneeling in prayer. The hand is placed over the heart during an anthem. The salute. The chant. These are not just movements, they are reinforcements. They turn belief into something physical, something the body remembers even when the mind forgets. This is why belief is so difficult to break. It is not just a thought, it is a structure. And structures are not shattered by argument. Those who seek to control others do not need to use force if they control belief. A person who is physically chained will fight for freedom. A person who believes they are free will never rebel, even if they are bound by invisible chains. But the book also reveals the way out. True freedom is not about rejecting all belief, it is about understanding how belief is formed. To question not just what you believe, but why you believe it. To trace ideas back to their origins and ask, who placed this thought in my mind? Why do I accept it as truth? This is the most dangerous act a person can take, because the moment you start questioning belief, the world begins to unravel. This path is not easy. Most people do not want to wake up. They cling to their beliefs not because they are true, but because they are comfortable. The mind resists change. It will fight to protect the very illusions that imprison it. But for those who are willing to see, the reward is greater than anything power or wealth can offer. It is the ability to think freely, to shape one's reality, rather than inherit one from others. The unwritten chapter. There is a reason why this book is feared. It is not simply because it exposes manipulation, nor because it unveils the hidden structures of control. It is because it asks a question so dangerous, so unthinkable, that even those who understand its teachings hesitate before answering it. What happens when the illusion is broken? The world as we see it is not the world as it is. Every law, every tradition, every moral code we follow was written by someone before us. The book reveals that nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent, nothing is beyond change. What seems like an unshakable truth today was once just an idea in someone's mind, an idea that became law because enough people believed in it. Governments rise and fall, religions evolve, and cultures shift. The powerful know this. That is why they do not seek to suppress rebellion outright. They seek to control it. They do not silence dissent by force. They redirect it. They do not fear those who are angry. They fear those who understand. Because the moment you understand, you become something else. You become unpredictable. A person who simply resists is still playing within the rules of the game. But a person who sees beyond the game is dangerous in a way that no army can defeat. They are not bound by the rules of belief, by the illusion of choice, by the artificial battles meant to keep them occupied. The most powerful force in the world is not control. It is not money or armies or even belief. It is the mind that refuses to be caged. The book does not tell you what to do with this knowledge. That is why it is so feared. It does not give instructions because true freedom cannot be given. It must be taken. And that is why those who read it disappear, not because they are silenced, not because they are imprisoned, but because they leave. They step beyond the structures of control. They stop being part of the system. They become something else, something that cannot be tracked or predicted. Some go into hiding, not out of fear, but because they see the world for what it is. A machine designed to keep people occupied, to keep them believing, to keep them choosing from a set of predetermined options. The book hints at those who have done this before, the mystics who vanished from history, the thinkers whose works were erased, the revolutionaries who did not fight battles but simply walked away from them. They left the game entirely, and that is why history does not remember them. The most dangerous knowledge isn't the kind that destroys, it's the kind that frees. And once you are free, there is no turning back. The last page of the book is blank because the final chapter isn't written yet. That part is yours to decide. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.